being in front of a room of white folks talking about race is a threatening proposition, right? Because immediately the interaction is white folks tend to shut down and don't listen to the black man. So y'all remember that President Obama had Luther, his anger translator? I brought along my white translator, my white splainer, the Father Case Ramey. And this is my co-host for Racial Heresy, and I'm his co-host. The other way around, I don't know, depending on which way the power dynamic is going on a particular day. But we thought it would be good to talk about this work of cultural competency and entering into this work from the reality of our experience here and how we became to be brothers through our life together here at VTS. Brother, welcome to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Thanks be to God. I'm glad I could welcome you to the table.
Yes, it is.
So, you and I, you all would not know, I came in my middler year. I started at Howard School of Divinity. But unfortunately, even though I had a 3.875 GPA, I got a note in the mail from Howard saying that due to our budgetary constraints, we can no longer afford your full tuition scholarship. And as a single dad, I couldn't afford to go to seminary on my own. And thanks be to God that some good people had done a whole lot of work at VTS to bring about the Bishop Payne Divinity Scholarship. And just by recommitting my life to the Episcopal Church, ooh, glory. Just by recommitting my life to the Episcopal Church and signing on the dotted line, I could get a Bishop Payne Divinity Scholarship and continue with my education. Woo! And so, middle of the year, I come on campus, and, you know, academics was never the problem. I had a 3.875 GPA. I had a 3.7-something GPA here when I graduated. I graduated at honors, so whatever. But at the same time, what was difficult was being here. The coursework was not hard at all. What was difficult was the culture. What was difficult was the constant being under a microscope and the microaggressions and the isolation. And I remember my first day on campus, I was sitting with another young lady who was from South Africa, so she was black. You can't really take that for granted, but she was black South African. And we were sitting on the patio outside the refectory. And first day, and the other white student who I had never met before, never spoke before, comes up to us, and her first words to me ever were, "I hope y'all aren't causing no trouble." Really? Like, I don't even know your name yet. You don't know my name. We clearly ain't friends where we can have that sort of conversation. But that's where it began. And so thanks be to God, we had this thing called small groups. Y'all got small groups, right? Have y'all gotten your small group assignments yet? Y'all been to your small groups already yet? No? Okay. But you'll go to small groups, and I had small group in Dr. Ye's house. And I told Dr. Ye earlier that this is where the story began. And the interesting thing, brothers and sisters, we'll talk a lot about this in case I'm going to have you jump in. You know, I always got to invite him to jump in.
That's right.
You know, but
I'm trying to learn to be silent.
That's a hard thing for a white man. But we would have these conversations at small group where I was able to be vulnerable and express the things that were going on. The irony is, in small group, the only person who ever reached out to me beyond small group was this brother here. And I remember occasions, and this is why I blasted my music on campus, because it was hard to come to campus. Thankfully, I tell people thankfully, they did not have family housing when I went here, because I was able to live off campus. And by the grace of God, I had a lease that did not expire before I came to seminary, so I didn't even live in Virginia. I was so glad to live in Maryland. I would leave campus and I would be like, oh, thank God. But I came, and every day that I came, I had to pound some Bob Marley or pound some Burning Spear. Those are reggae groups, if you know. Or pound some Public Enemy or some Dead Prez or something to get my mind right to come to campus. And I remember the day when we bonded very, very deeply. I had made it to the Welcome Center and parked. I couldn't get out the car. I sat in the car and cried. And Case saw me and came in the car and cried with me. And then we've been brothers ever since.